Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And I'm Troy, your favorite new boomer on YouTube. Well, as you can see by the title, a former ATF agent claims that up to 50% of the guns in America do not meet the definition of a firearm. Of course, that's according to him. Now, how I came across this story, I went down a rabbit hole last night and into today that I was looking at one story and it led me to another and another. That then led me to this one that was done on February 7th of 2020, so this year. And it was on foxcarolina.com, which they are a Fox affiliate, of course, in the Carolinas. Now, when I started looking at those stories and came to this one, I then found out that the ones that I was looking at, they all had a common thing, and that was an ATF agent that was a witness, not for the ATF, but for the defense in all of these cases. And he helped win every single one of them for the defense. So let's talk about this former ATF agent. His name is Dan Okelly. And he's had a long career in the ATF of 23 years. He was considered one of the ATF's top gun experts. He served for 5 years as the lead firearms technology instructor at the ATF National Academy, where he co-wrote the curriculum for incoming agents. He spent more than half of his life devoted to law enforcement, first as a police officer in Indiana and then as a federal agent. After he left the ATF, Okelly formed his own firearms training and consulting firm. Now, in the last case that Mr. Kelly was a witness for the defense in, federal prosecutors said after that his testimony in court has the potential to upend the 1968 Gun Control Act and in quotes, seriously undermine the ATF's ability to trace and regulate firearms nationwide. Now, when somebody talked to Mr. Okelly after this, he said the ATF has been deliberately misrepresenting a key gun control regulation for decades. He also said he voiced his concern when he was in the ATF to an official more than 2 decades ago, but it fell on deaf ears. Now, let's talk a little bit about, before we get on with one part of the story, we have to talk about a brief history on gun control legislation. The Federal Firearms Act of 1938 pretty much said that every part of a gun was subject to regulation. Well, it took more than 30 years later, and then Congress passed the 1968 Gun Control Act, and they finally chose one part of a weapon as its key component for regulatory purposes. That key part, according to the Gun Control Act, is referred to the frame, which most people refer to it as a receiver, which is the body of a firearm in the area surrounding the trigger. And later on, they did a more precise definition, and this is quotes, that part of a firearm which provides housing for the hammer, bolt, or breech block and firing mechanism, and which is usually threaded at its forward position to receive the barrel. Now, in the first case I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to go in more detail in a part 2 because this video is going to get long. Mr. Okelly, in the latest case that he was a witness for the defendant from like I said, a case that the ATF brought towards him. It was in December of 2019. And after Mr. Okelly did his testimony, a federal judge in Ohio dismissed weapons-related charges against 2 men after Okelly testified that the AR-15 part at issue in their case was not subject to federal law regulation. And then a U.S. District Court judge named James G. Carr, and he was from the Northern District of Ohio, called the ATF's long-standing interpretation of the regulation unreasonable and legally unacceptable. Dan Okelly says the problem is that roughly, like I said in the title, 60% of the guns in America do not have a single part that falls under that definition. He gave an example. An AR-15 has a split receiver, one upper and one lower, and neither meets the requirements on its own. Okelly also said for 50 years the ATF has been trying to make a square peg fit in a round hole, when in fact it does not fit. Okelly also stated that simply, when I'm asked to testify in court, I take the oath to tell the truth, and I have. The last thing he wants is to be seen as at odds with the ATF's mission of keeping guns from criminals. Since leaving the ATF in 2011, Okelly has been a paid expert witness in at least 4 cases, including the one I just talked about, in which he has detailed his view that the AR-15 and many other guns don't have a single part that is subject to federal law or regulation. Now, in part 2, I'm going to go over the 4 cases, and this story was really long. I might have to split those up too as well, and I'll go into more detail when I talked about the first case too as well in those parts. So let me know what you guys think. It's unbelievable what this former agent has done, and helped out 4 different defendants win their cases against the ATF. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. A lot of people I find out that are watching my videos are not subscribed, but YouTube's been awfully nice to me and putting them in their suggested section. But if you do subscribe and hit that bell notification, you'll get the videos information sent to you right away. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.